Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 50 Shades of Tay. I'm Taylor Gonzalez, and today for episode three, you guys, we're already on episode three of my favorite horror movie. I am joined by Dave Parker. He's a writer, director, producer. He does it all. You guys know him as the director of The Hills Run Red. You guys know him as the director of his most recent film, You Shouldn't Have Let Me In, which is on Tubi. Dave, how are you doing today?
Hey Taylor, hi. I'm doing great. Happy Friday the 13th. I'm so glad that we're getting to do it on this day, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool. Though I didn't pick a Friday the 13th movie, so I don't know if that's blasphemous or not, but we'll see.
Do you do anything special today to celebrate Friday the 13th?
Well, I dress up, obviously.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
it all depends. Sometimes, yeah, I think somewhere I'd have to look somewhere in LA. They're actually for the 40th anniversary, they're showing Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Hmm.
So maybe I'll go check that out. I don't know. I'm a little under the weather, so it's probably smarter for me not to go out. And I've seen those movies so often that, now I could probably just, recite them back. But I'm not going to do that here.
Do you know Horror Vibes Coffee in
I
like
go
North
there.
Hollywood?
Yeah, yeah, I go there a lot.
Ooh, they're doing a Friday the 13th special today. I think there's like themed drinks and discounts and stuff like that. I might check
That's
that
cool.
out. I know later today I'm
That's
gonna
a
go
trek
to,
for you,
yeah,
just for coffee.
I know, but it's so fun there. I love that place. I'm gonna go check out Speak No Evil later today. I've seen the trailer a million times. They've been playing that trailer for forever, it seems. So I'm finally gonna see the movie today.
Nice. I hope it's good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna probably check it out at some point this weekend. Yeah.
You know what? Maybe someone might say that Speak No Evil might be their favorite horror movie, but Dave, what is your favorite horror movie? You like that transition?
It's very smooth, very smooth. My favorite horror movie today is The Fog. And I say that only because there's so many, and there's a lot of time where I've talked about another particular one before, and I was like, I want to mix it up a little bit and talk about another one that I don't know if it gets enough love, especially for like newer people who are just sort of getting into the genre.
Yeah, agreed. I revisited last night because I haven't seen it in a long time. And I was thinking the whole time, I was like, they wouldn't make this today. And it's such a bummer because if they were to make it today in 2024, it wouldn't be practical. It would be, digital fog and CGI this and CGI that. And I think they would show more. One thing that I like about the movie is they hold back a lot in the fog. Like you use your imagination. You're not, it's not thrown in your face. And I feel like today everything would be digital, everything would be thrown in your face. It would give away too much. What are some of the things that you love about the fog?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing that I really always was drawn to with the fog in the beginning was uh the setting. It's a coastal town. It could be Maine, it could be California. We're not it's Antonio Bay, so I believe it is California, which is um up north, practically where they shot it was up north, like 40 miles outside of San Francisco in Point Reyes, California, which is very close to Bodega Bay where they shot the birds. A little trivia there. So I love the atmosphere of it. I love the fact that it's a ghost story, but it works on for me. It works on multiple levels of horror. And when I was sort of like revisiting again last night, I was like, okay, wow. So John Carpenter had just come off of Halloween before this movie, huge success and everything, and then he was kind of given this two-picture deal where he could kind of do whatever he wanted, and The Fog was the first one. And it's just such a classic ghost story, but again, but there's slasher elements to it a little bit. There's Lovecraftian elements to it. There's even sort of nature running amok, getting revenge, so to me it's so cool because it can be the fog is multiple things, but ultimately it's just a great ghost story. And what I love about it is because it was a low budget film, you know, whereas sometimes you would have someone tell someone a ghost story and then you would cut to what that was and everything. the beginning of this movie just opens with, Mr. Machchin, telling a ghost story to a bunch of kids around a campfire. And it's still riveting because the writing of the ghost story and the way he tells it is just so good. And it immediately sets the tone and gives you a lot of story information very quickly. And then you're into the movie. And then it gets, spookier from there.
Yeah, I think it's a very spooky vibe. I would recommend this if someone's looking for something to add to their horror watch list this Halloween season. How many times do you think you've watched The Fog?
I can't even remember. I bet it's over 100 times.
Oh, wow.
The fog has become comfort food. I'll throw it on and fall asleep to it.
That's
Or
awesome.
if I just want, something playing in the background, I'll throw on the fog just because I'm that familiar with it. So it's funny enough. That's always like a good test of what's a good comfort food movie. And people are like, how can you go to sleep to a horror movie and stuff? They're screaming and yelling. It's like when you know the movie so well and everything. Not that I'm blaring the movie when I'm going to sleep
Yeah.
anyway. Um, but I just sleep right through that because it's all just there's just such a cool vibe to this movie that I love the atmosphere. I love the way it looks. Um, and the thing is, when I first saw the movie, it was on probably VHS
Oh,
when it
nice.
came out. So in a way, until I saw it in a theater, I didn't really see the fog the way
Mm,
you're supposed to because it's a widescreen movie. He shoots widescreen, and there's so much stuff to the frames and sides and everything that if it's cut off, you miss a lot.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so neat now because living here in Los Angeles and everything. Well, it's like, well, I've been to that church.
Mhm.
I've been to some of the locations. I've certainly met some of the actors who were in it and the director and talked to him about it. So it's very cool. And sorry, there's an airplane going overhead.
I can't hear it, so that's
Oh,
good.
okay, good. Um, and I just love the atmosphere to it. And you're right. It's when you were talking about you couldn't make this movie today. Well, they did in 2005. They remade it, and all
Mhm.
the points that you brought up were done.
Yeah.
It's almost all CGI fog, and it doesn't work. And they you know they don't tell the ghost story at the beginning. They show it, and it's
Yeah.
like it's amazing how um simplicity can be much more scary and effective. And this what I also love about this movie is it's because it is a ghost story,
Mhm.
but within that, so it's a ghost story that also tells you during the movie three separate ghost stories or reveals more. You get the
Mhm.
ghost story in the beginning, and then you get when Mrs. Williams meets with uh Father Malone, and he tells you the real story of what happened.
Mhm.
And then you get Nick Castle telling Jamie Lee Curtis's character a ghost story that his father told him, and you're watching a ghost story. So it just continues to revolve around itself on these multi levels, and also it's just really scary at
Yeah.
times without being graphic,
Right.
without being excessive and graphic, and the camera work is all very subdued. It's really about what's happening in the story. It's not the camera flying around and chasing people
Yeah.
and all these crazy angles and everything. It wants to the camera wants to be invisible, and it's just then you get Dean Cundy's lighting.
Mhm.
Obviously, a great movie to me is a culmination of all these elements. It's the writing, it's the directing, it's the cinematography, it's the score, and also the effects are really effective here. And they did again, almost all of it was with the majority of it, except for the really large wide shots, are all practical in-camera effects. And then ingeniously they for like when the fog is coming over a hill and it's a very wide shot or something. Well, what they did is they made these like sort of black velvet forms in the same shape,
Mhm.
and then had like dry ice fog and stuff come over, and then they superimposed it so it would be the same shape. And it's just like
That's awesome.
it's amazing now, especially if you it's an interesting comparison to the remake, which is not good.
Mhm.
Um, Not that people didn't try to make it good, but I
Yeah.
think it was just sort of the wrong approach. But it is a really interesting comparison to the two films
Yeah.
and how effective for me. And the thing is, I grew up as a VHS 80s horror kid, so I was very much into the Friday the 13th and the Reanimators and Return of the Living
Oh yeah.
Deads and all the gory blood stuff because I was really interested in the effects and how they were doing them. But something like this, at least for me, um, resonates a lot more now. And
Yeah.
I just appreciate every time I watch it, I appreciate it even more.
Mhm. So we were talking about the practical effects in this film, and just the other day I went to an advanced screening of The Killer's Game, which is a new like action flick that's coming out. I think it's out today, and it was good. The action was really good. I like some of the characters, but they used digital blood, and that's like one of my least favorite things in movies because practical blood it looks so much better. I feel like if you're on set, it's so much more fun. And
Sure.
just all the digital blood in this film was just like, man, what a missed opportunity to just, use the practical stuff. So that's why when I'm thinking of the fog, seeing, like you said, the dry ice, the fog machines, it looks great. And then, yeah, if they made it today, just like you said, the remake, everything's digital. It doesn't feel as like lived in and it doesn't feel as real. And the fog doesn't, it's right there next to
Right.
them when it's really there. So it's just, what a difference. It's like night and day seeing practical versus digital. I don't know. What do you think about digital blood?
I've had to use it a couple times. I'm not a fan of it, and it's usually because an effect didn't work.
Hmm.
Um, and it's always they just it's just disappointing. It's gotten better, and I
Hmm.
understand for an action movie, you know, squibbing up people is time consuming. You have to stop and reset and change wardrobe and everything. I think it's mainly used now for time, but it's
Yeah.
not. But it's not as good. It's like obviously there are things that visual effects can do that you can't possibly do, or
Hmm.
it would cost the movie would cost $500 million or even more to do all practically and would take much longer. But I think for effects like bullet hits or things in horror where blood is involved and everything, that you know it just doesn't the old ways still work best,
Yeah. No, I agree.
compared to now. So, but I get the practicality and the time saving
Hmm.
and money saving, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm antiquated, so I'd much rather if I can, I always try to do it practically, and I think that always is just better, and the audience can tell.
Yeah. No, 100%. Do you think that the fog has influenced your filmmaking?
Not directly, but yes, in some ways, in certain pacing moments, in the way in the way I've used music before.
Mm.
I think in certain things, I would I would like it to influence it more. I'd like to do a project very much in the spirit of the fog. I think would be really cool. And I think the nice thing is, you know, we talk about our favorite horror movies, and a lot of the time you talk about some of the classic, you talk about Halloween, you talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you talk about this movie. Um, I mean, a lot of them are more violent and gory in your imagination than they actually are. And I think that's a real art now where we have the technology and the skills and the amazing artists to be able to show anything
Yeah.
that, if you can be a little restrained and let the audience imagine things, a lot of the times it's much more effective.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most effective things about the Paranormal Activity franchise is the fact that they didn't I don't know the farther it got because I don't know that I've seen like the very newest ones, but the first couple they didn't show much and it was mainly left up to your imagination and I know that's why I was afraid to take out the trash at night. I was afraid to get home from a late shift at work. Like those first couple Paranormal Activity movies where they held back and they just left it to the audience to imagine what's staring at them, what's chasing them, what's making that noise. I I love that.
Yeah, and there's still this the thing is with those films, what's very cool is there's still tricks. I mean, you see
Mhm.
someone get dragged down a flight of stairs, and it was like, okay, well, how do they practically do that? Did they have someone? Do they just tie a rope around their ankle and then clean it out with CG, or do they have someone in a suit, a green screen suit, and then mat it out? I don't know, but but that stuff is really effective. I mean, that series alone, the moment when it dips to black and then comes up, especially in the first one, and you're in the bedroom and you get that low rumble going, you could feel in the audience, everyone would just get on edge because they know something's coming again. They
Yeah.
don't know what though. So that to me was always very effective. And the same thing I think with this one, because it's not just the fog that's,
Mhm.
coming. There's the pirates in the fog. There's the ghost pirates in the fog. Um, you have a great scene in a hospital room where Jamie Lee Curtis is there, and then a guy who's dead gets up and comes at her and is like,
Yeah.
well, that's the thing is, it was like, is it all about logic, or is it just trying to give you like this very cool thrill ride thing that at that time people weren't dissecting
Mhm.
every moment for logic. It's just like it's a ghost story. You're
Yeah.
watching a ghost story too, so just kind of go for the ride. It's much more enjoyable.
Let's say right now our phones ring. Whoever owns the rights to the fog says, "Hey, let's do a remake." Would you want to take that project on if you're able to have total control? If you're able to say, "I want," no, you wouldn't.
I wouldn't want to do a remake. It's funny enough. Recently, there was a Fog sequel comic book series that came out
Oh,
that
cool.
deals with Adrienne Barbeau's character, and it actually deals with she's in the comic book, which is really fun. Is she's dating Bennett, who was the character that John Carpenter played in the Fog, and then the fog comes back and it deals with her kids and stuff like that, and she's so that might be interesting, but i just i I'd rather do something original,
Mhm.
something else instead. I think um unless you have like what John Carpenter did with the thing, unless you really have source material that you can go back to that is different enough from the original movie,
Yeah.
um so you can, or the way that Cronenberg did The Fly. There's something that really different. I don't know. The beautiful thing about The Fog for me is that it is this simple ghost story.
Mhm.
Uh, so I don't know how you I don't know where you go to make that cooler. The only thing that might be interesting is maybe not do a remake in the traditional sense. I remember a couple years ago I was in Chicago and I was in the Hancock building, which is one of the tallest buildings in Chicago. They have a restaurant and bar up at the top. And what was cool, it was midday, and because the building's so tall, the fog came in and just surrounded the building, and you could not see the buildings underneath. You were just in cat. So maybe in a city environment, that could be, something kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be perfect because what I was thinking is instead of a remake, do you kind of like what A Quiet Place just did? Show the same event, but in a different town, a different city, a different location. That way, it's not a sequel in the sense of the same characters, and it's not a remake, as in you're just telling the same story. But you could see, yeah, a different city, or just I don't, I don't know, something crazy like maybe even different era or something, just to see how people maybe with today's technology or go way back in the past to like I don't know, Egypt and just see, what happens if I don't know how there would be fog in Egypt, but something like that
Right.
and just see what it's like and how different
But
time
you could do
periods.
it. But you could do a different what would be interesting to me is you could do different variations on the fog in the sense of
Mhm,
like if you did Egypt, well, it could be sandstorms.
mhm.
or it could be blizzards, in the winter instead, that carry these ghosts, something that there's something very cool with the simple notion of, here's the fog, what if something was in it?
Yeah,
And taking that idea and doing that with a different sort of natural element to it. Rain, you could do it with rain, the rain comes and something comes with it. This sort of sense of dread, the Mist did a very cool variation on
mhm,
it as
yeah.
well. So, which is
No, I
another
agree.
one that I love a lot too.
Do you have a favorite out of all the times you've seen it? Do you have like a favorite memory associated with it? Like maybe it was a midnight screening or a time you took someone who had never seen it before.
Um, and funny enough, I just saw the movie a couple months ago on the big screen again, which was really cool. And that was kind of neat. And then when you're in Los Angeles and everything, people who go to the screens, you're like, oh wow, look at that. It's Brian Fuller and it's Kevin Williamson, and they're here too because they love the movie. So that was really cool. But I think for me, the my favorite memory of seeing it was the first time that I saw it on the big screen, because it was really the first time that I ever saw it. And that was years ago. Um, and that was just great because I was noticing all these things that I'd never had the ability to see before, and then hearing it in the sound, just sort of being immersed in it that way. I wish that they had, I mean, it would have been a bad idea, but if they had like had smoke machines in the theater and you
Oh,
could,
that would have been
be there
cool.
with fog, even if it was just dry ice, so it was low. I'd love to do sort of environmental immersive screenings for certain things.
Oh, I would love that.
I guess
That'd be
that's
great.
sort of similar to like, going to where it was shot. It's like, oh, I'm seeing Friday the 13th at the camp it was shot at or
Yeah,
something. So, but even if you couldn't just in a theater give that little bit of that sort of immersive feel would be very cool.
yeah.
And,
You
and
mentioned.
the other great thing, sorry to
Oh
interrupt.
no, it's okay.
The other favorite, one of my favorite things connected with this movie is when I got to see John Carpenter perform live
Oh, that's
and he
cool.
would play the fog. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. You
so.
mentioned that you got to visit some of the set places from this film, and one of my favorite things to do every Halloween season, and honestly, even year round, is when I take my puppy June for a walk. Uh, I go over to South Pasadena because that's where they filmed the original Halloween, and you
Mhm.
can visit Laurie Strode's house. You can visit the Myers house. You can visit the Hedge. A lot of stuff is within walking distance.
Oh, right.
That's
Right
like,
across the street is the store where he stole the mask and the rope and the knives and all
yeah, the
that.
hardware store. Yeah, and then Sugarmint Gallery, I think is the
Right
name of the
around the
place.
corner. Yep.
Yeah, they screen it like in an outdoor backyard type thing on a screen, and just such a fun thing. I would love for more films to do that. Just yesterday, so when we're recording this, it's Friday the 13th. When you guys see this, it'll be a couple weeks later. But Disney just announced that they're re-releasing Nightmare Before Christmas and Hocus Pocus in theaters for Halloween time. The Fog would be a great one if other studios were like, let's release some like classic horror movies in theaters to get people, back in theaters and then also in the mood for Halloween. I think The Fog would be a great one.
It'd be really fun. I think we get that here obviously in Los Angeles. I mean, right now the New Art is doing like 9 weeks of horror movies, and I think tonight is the first one, which is Critters. So they're definitely doing it.
Ooh.
They have a really great schedule of things like Killer Clowns and Critters and a bunch of really good stuff playing there. Um, but yeah, that's what's great about the season is we're lucky enough. The thing with Nightmare Before Christmas is I always picture it as it's more of a Christmas movie to me. It really is. I mean, I love the opening and I love the movie, but it was always more of a Christmas movie to me. And it's one of my sort of pet peeves about Disney is I hate the fact that they turn during the Halloween season the Haunted Mansion
Uh-oh.
into Christmas. I don't like. I'm like, just wait till Christmas
Oh, it's
and
my
do it
favorite
then.
though.
But
It's so
I
fun.
mean, I like it for what it is.
Yeah,
But for
yeah.
Halloween, I want the Haunted Mansion. I don't want a Christmassy Haunted Mansion.
Mhm.
So it's always weird to me, but
Oh
that's
man.
fine. That's okay. And Hocus Pocus is I'm someone who was very late to that movie. I only saw it for the first time a couple of years ago.
And what did you think? Did you like it?
I did. I was like, okay, I get it. I understand. This is yeah. This is good. It's fun. It's it really works. So I do. I understand it now,
Yeah.
but still not my favorite Disney Halloween movie. So
What is your favorite Disney Halloween movie?
it's a toss up between Something Wicked This Way Comes and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the animated.
Ooh, ooh, okay, all right. Those are good. Those are both good ones. Very nice. If someone came to you and said, "Hey, I'm putting together a watch list for Halloween time. What are some other horror movies that you would recommend?" What would you tell them?
Okay, I mean, they're going to get recommendations that are always going to like tick off the lists of, Mike Doherty's Trick or Treat and Halloween, obviously, so those I know would be covered. So I would probably suggest different things for like a Halloween party. There's a couple things that I would throw on that could be sort of on in the background that would be fun. One is Terror in the Aisles, which was a movie from 82, I believe, 82, 83. And basically, it was a compilation movie that when it came out into the theaters, and it's hosted by Donald Pleasance and Nancy Allen. And it's just really fun. It just goes through horror in different, you know, different subcategories and stuff like that, and in a very fun way. So that's great for background. Um, there's a documentary that came out several years ago that I love, and people like documentary, but I watch it and it instantly gets me in the Halloween mood, and that's called The American Scream, and it's about home haunters, and that one's really great. Um, there's another one. These are all like you have to seek these out. These aren't like super easy to find. They're around to rent, but you have to do it. You can't just turn on HBO Max and find them. There's another one that's really fun called the WNUF Halloween Special, which is it makes it feel like you're watching from the 90s or 80s a local television channel's Halloween special.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's done really well, and they have their own commercials that feel very authentic, and it's all very small town, and that's really fun. So I would recommend that too. Another one in that same vein, which I believe is on Shudder right now, is one called Ghost Watch, which is another show where people are doing a ghost investigation and something goes wrong. And
Oh,
that one's really cool too. For kids, I would say Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the animated one, like I suggested.
mm.
Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is always a great one. So yeah, I would suggest sort of the off kilter ones that instead of the ones that most people probably would throw out there.
Yeah, no, those are great recommendations. And then while you're watching these films, what is your go-to Halloween candy?
Um, I really like candied apples
Ooh, nice.
or caramel apples.
Mhm.
That sort of counts as candy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I like dark chocolate. I did like brands like Snickers or this. I don't. Uh, you can't go wrong with a Reese's peanut butter cup unless you're allergic to peanut butter. So you know,
Yeah,
so
my boyfriend hates peanut butter. So if I eat, my favorite's peanut M&Ms. So if I eat them, I can't get anywhere near him for like a half hour. He just, yeah, hates peanut butter, hates peanuts, but it's okay. He's
what
missing
did they
out.
ever do? What did the peanuts ever do to him?
I know he says he's allergic, but is he? Prove it.
Do you really
No,
want to
maybe
like?
don't, maybe don't prove
I would
it.
say you really want to test that one out and have to
No, no,
drop in the
no.
like emergency room.
I believe you. I believe you. And then my favorite question, I don't think I asked you this when I interviewed you. What is your favorite Halloween costume that you've ever dressed up as?
Okay. I'm not because I'm kind of in the horror film circle and stuff. It's like every day sort of Halloween. Not that I
Mhm.
dress up. I mean, people would say that I am, but uh there's two that I've done that I love. One, I did Jordy Verrill from Creep Show. So
Oh,
I was
nice.
Stephen King from Creep Show, and I literally like had green faux fur and moss and everything else glued onto me, and that one turned out really well.
Awesome.
And then I think I do these costumes more for me than anything. I went as the killer from Pieces,
Okay.
which is you're like
I don't know if I know
it's
that one off the
it's
top of my
very
head.
simple. It's a black hat and a black coat and a chainsaw, and
Ooh.
people were like, "Are you the shadow of the chainsaw?" I was like, "No, I'm the killer from Pieces." So the people who got it, and
Yeah.
so I might do that this year. I'm thinking
Fun.
about um doing the New York Ripper.
Ooh, okay. All right. Nice,
A friend
nice.
of mine did Frank Zito from Maniac one year, which was pretty hilarious. Again, it's just like incredibly strange, very, very fringy, but I don't because affects people and stuff like that when you live in Los Angeles. But of course, they always get hit up around Halloween time. They're like, "Will
Yeah.
you do my makeup and stuff?" It's like I don't want to bother people with that, and
Yeah, yeah.
takes a lot of time. So,
Yeah.
and it's great while you're walking around, but if you're at a party or something and you're covered in latex, and then it becomes a drag, and then you've got at least another hour or two if it's really extensive to clean up
Yeah.
at the end of the night, and you're like, I'm tired.
Yeah,
So
very true. But Dave, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me about The Fog, your favorite horror movie. Where can people follow you and keep up with all your upcoming projects?
I am on Instagram, all one word, all lowercase Parker Vision is the
Awesome.
best place to find me.
Well, thank you very much. This was very fun. We got to get drinks soon. Maybe hang out with Rob. That'd be. We should go trick or treat at his house.
Yeah, because I need to drive 2 hours just to go
Oh
trick or treat at his house.
no!
You're much closer, I think.
Am I?
Are you?
To each other or to
Yeah,
Rob?
to each other.
I don't think so. I think it's still at least like an hour and a half, but
Oh my
maybe just like on
God.
a random Monday, like not even on Halloween, just show up and say trick or treat.
Yeah, and we know where to find him. He'll be in the observatory.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just ambush him during his 1,000th
1,000 hours.
episode.
I know. That's crazy. I still got to hit him up and
He's
see if
never
I
gonna
can hype
make
it
it.
all.
He's never gonna make it.
I don't know. I can't wait to watch
He
him fall
didn't
asleep.
say yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, a good 12 hours of it will just be him, asleep in the chair with the camera on.
Oh my gosh.
It'll be great.
Well, happy Halloween and hope to
You
see you
too.
soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.